Welcome to the Business Leaders Cyber Briefing. This is our deep dive, sponsored by Coolwater Cyber.
And today, we're getting straight into something crucial for every UK executive listening.
That's right, the NCSC Annual Review for 2025. It's quite the read.
It really is. And our mission today, well, it's twofold, really. First, we need to pull out the absolute key findings from that NCSC report. Some of it's, frankly, alarming.
And second,
we need to talk about the practical steps. What do UK organizations actually do now, beyond just ticking boxes?
and then we're going to pivot, aren't we, into something that's, well, increasingly critical.
Exactly. Cyber supply chain security. It's arguably the new frontier of risk. We'll explore that and look at some tools designed to help manage it, specifically the Cyber Swift portal.
Okay, so there's a big theme running through all of this, isn't there?
There absolutely is. And it's unavoidable now. Cyber risk, it's not an IT issue anymore, not solely.
No, it's landed squarely in the boardroom. It's a mandatory priority.
And it's fundamental to economic security, to basic business continuity. If you want to keep operating, this is central.
The NCSC seems to be making that point very forcefully.
They are. It feels like an intervention almost. Leaders who just maintain the status quo or, think it won't happen to us.
They're falling short.
Seriously falling short. Failing in their duty of care, really. Because the scale of this threat, it's changed. Our response has to change, too.
Right. Let's unpack that change in scale.
Where?
For years, cyber risk often meant, what? A data breach, leaked customer details.
Yeah, privacy violations, maybe some reputational damage. That was the main worry.
But now, the impact feels much more physical, operational.
That's precisely what the NCSC is highlighting. Attacks are now designed, engineered almost, for maximum disruption to operations.
So they're not just after data.
Not primarily in many cases. They're stopping production lines. They're emptying shelves in supermarkets, halting essential services.
We saw some huge examples in the UK, didn't we? Marks & Spencer, Co-op Group.
Jaguar Land Rover, too. Very high profile. And the disruption wasn't just some IT glitch. It hit market reputation, stock levels, the core business.
I remember the Co-op Group example.
Yeah.
The report quotes their CEO, Shireen Curryhack.
Yes, she described it as causing significant business interruption and impact. That's not just corporate speak.
No, it's an admission, really.
Yeah.
Even with planning, the sheer intensity of these attacks can overwhelm defenses.
And that intensity, well, the NCSC puts numbers on it. Quite dramatic numbers, actually.
Let's look at those incident statistics.
Yeah.
Because they really define the threat level, don't they?
They do. So the NCSC incident management team handled 429 incidents in total. But here's the kicker.
The categorization.
Exactly. Almost half, 48%, that's 204 incidents were classed as nationally significant.
Wow. 200 to 4. And how does that compare to the previous year?
It's a huge jump. More than double the 89 they handled the year before.
Okay, that alone is worrying. But it gets worse, doesn't it? When you look at the most severe incidents.
It does. The highly significant category.
Yeah.
These are the ones that seriously hit central government or essential services or the UK economy itself.
And the numbers there.
They accounted for 4% of the total. That's 18 incidents. But the really chilling part, the NCSC specifically notes this is a 50% increase.
50%.
For the third consecutive year.
Right. 3 years running. A 50% year-on-year rise in the absolute worst kind of cyber incidents.
Put that growth curve in any other business context, and you'd call it a crisis. Straight up.
It completely shatters traditional risk modeling, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Which often assumes threats grow linearly or maybe just stay level.
Exactly. Traditional models see growth. They think opportunity. The NCSC sees this growth, and it's measuring vulnerability, measuring risk.
So the challenge isn't just growing, it's accelerating fast.
That's the reality. So who's driving this? Who are the threat actors? Well, top of the list still is ransomware.
Still the most acute threat.
Absolutely. The most pervasive. It seems to be the go-to tool for financially motivated cybercriminals.
And they target specific sectors.
No, that's the key thing. The NCSC confirms they are completely sector agnostic. They don't care if you're in healthcare, manufacturing, retail.
So what do they care about?
3 things, mainly. Vulnerability, can they get in easily? Likelihood to pay, will the victim cough up? Or do they hold sensitive data or run critical operations where an attack guarantees maximum chaos or reputational damage?
Basically, if you have valuable data or operations you can't afford to lose, you're a target, period.
Pretty much. And that's just the criminals. Beyond them, we still have the major concern of nation-state actors.
Right. What does the NCSC say about countries like China and Russia in this latest review?
Well, the report is quite clear on their capabilities. China is described as highly sophisticated,
Yeah.
capable, persistent, targeting sectors all over the world.
Any specific examples given?
Yes, they highlighted the exposure of a China-linked group called Integrity Technology Group, also known as Flax Typhoon.
Klax Typhoon, what did they do?
They managed this absolutely colossal botnet, over 260,000 compromised devices globally.
250,000 devices. That shows incredible scale, doesn't it? And patience. Building infrastructure like that takes time.
It does. Infrastructure ready for surveillance or, future disruption at the flick of a switch.
And Russia. What's the focus of their activity?
Their most intense, most disruptive cyber activity is still focused on supporting the conflict in Ukraine. That hasn't changed.
But the NCSC is still trying to counter it.
Yes, they're continuing what they call radical transparency, publicly outing Russian cyber tools and activity like the Authentic Antics malware they exposed.
The idea being to make it harder for them to operate secretly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Increase the cost, increase the complexity for the attackers, deny them the stealth they need. It's a smart defensive tactic.
But it's not just the official state actors we need to worry about.
No, definitely not. We also see these pro-Russia hacktivist groups. They frequently go after critical national infrastructure, CNI sectors.
And how do they choose targets?
This is important. Often, it's based purely on vulnerability. Whatever they find that's easy to hit, regardless of its political importance. That makes them unpredictable and dangerous for essential services.
Okay, so we've got criminals, nation-states, proxies, and then there's the big one everyone talks about, AI, artificial intelligence.
Ah, yes, the digital elephant in the room.
Is the Hollywood vision of AI launching attacks becoming real? What does the NCSC actually say about how threat actors are using AI now?
This is a really crucial point, and the NCSC is quite careful here. They stress that currently, threat actors use AI mainly to enhance their existing methods, their tactics, techniques, and procedures, or TTPs.
So it's not creating entirely new types of attack out of thin air.
Not yet, generally speaking. It's more of a force multiplier. It makes existing attacks more efficient, more effective, and lets them happen more frequently.
Okay, so making bad things happen faster and better, essentially.
Precisely. We're seeing it in a few key areas. First, making spear phishing campaigns much more effective, fully automated, hyper-personalized, harder to spot.
That sounds dangerous enough. What else?
Second, using compromised or, maliciously designed large language models, LLMs, to help automate coding or even internal processes for attackers.
Right. But the NCSC singled out one area as particularly significant right now.
Yes. The third one, AI-assisted vulnerability research and exploit development. VRED for short.
VRED. Okay, let's break that down. For a business leader listening, what does that technical term actually mean on the ground? Why is AI helping with it so threatening?
So VRED is basically the process of finding security flaws, bugs in software code, operating systems, applications, hardware, anything. And then crucially, building the malicious code, the exploit, needed to take advantage of that flaw.
And it traditionally takes a lot of skill.
A lot of skill, highly specialized, expensive human expertise, and time. Lots of time. AI changes that equation.
How so?
It drastically cuts down the time and the level of expertise needed.
So finding a potential zero-day flaw in critical software. Instead of taking a top team weeks, AI could help find it in days, hours even.
That's the potential, yes. And then it can help rapidly generate the exploit code, too.
Which means?
It lowers the barrier to entry for creating really effective attacks, and it dramatically shrinks the window that defenders, like your IT team, have to patch vulnerable systems.
So if your organization has a slow patching cycle,
You're in a race against AI-assisted attackers now, and it's a race you're increasingly likely to lose.
that speed, that intensity, it brings us right back to the boardroom, doesn't it?
Yeah.
If attacks are accelerating, leadership has to step up.
Absolutely. So why has cybersecurity often stayed siloed in the tech department when the impact is clearly so fundamental to the business?
Good question. What's the barrier?
The NCSC is pretty explicit here. The core barrier. It's
Amen.
behavioral. It's mindset, not technology.
Explain that. What kind of mindset?
It's what behavioral scientists call optimism bias. Leaders in sectors traditionally seen as maybe less techie, manufacturing, construction, education, even some healthcare areas.
They think it won't happen to them.
Exactly. They unconsciously assume that really bad things, like a catastrophic cyber attack, are just unlikely to happen to their organization.
The old, we're too small or we don't have valuable data argument.
Right. And that's a fundamentally flawed assumption because, as we said, attackers target vulnerability, not specific sectors. They hit the weakest link.
And this bias leads to what? Underinvestment.
Underinvestment, definitely, and a failure to allocate the necessary resources for proper defense. This makes the CISO's job incredibly hard.
So the CISO's critical task now is translation.
Precisely. Translating that technical risk, those vulnerabilities, into genuine, quantifiable business risk that the board understands and has to act on.
How do they do that effectively?
Yeah.
I can't just be saying our share price might fall. What works?
You have to speak their language. The language of the board is continuity, contracts, regulation, fines, operational impact.
Can you give an example?
Sure. Instead of the CISO reporting, we have a backlog of 50 critical vulnerabilities to patch. They should say something like, failure to patch these 3 specific systems puts us in breach of clause 4.2 of our biggest customer contract. If they go down, 30% of our Q3 revenue is at immediate risk.
Okay, that's much clearer. Or maybe relating it to downtime.
Exactly. Our current tested recovery time for the core manufacturing system is 48 hours. A successful ransomware attack means at least X million pounds in lost production, leading to empty shelves for our key retail partner.
That immediately shifted from a technical IT problem to a potential business survival issue.
That's the goal.
So let's say the board gets it. They understand the risk. They're ready to act. Where do they start? What's the absolute foundational step for resilience?
Well, despite all the advanced threats we've talked about, AI, nation-states, sophisticated ransomware, the fundamental answer, surprisingly perhaps, hasn't changed. It's cyber essentials.
Cyber essentials. The scheme identified by GCHQ over a decade ago.
That's the one. Those 5 core technical controls. They are still proven, demonstrably proven, to block the vast majority of common opportunistic attacks. It's the baseline.
I sometimes hear people say, oh, cyber essentials, it's too basic, especially with threats evolving so fast. Why is it still the mandatory starting point?
Because the simple truth is, most successful attacks still exploit basic failures in cyber hygiene. Things like unpatched software, weak or default passwords, poorly configured firewalls.
Cyber Essentials tackles those head-on.
It does, and it's not just theory. We have hard data on its value. The NCSC cites figures showing organizations with Cyber Essentials certification are 92% less likely to make a cyber insurance claim.
92%. That's a huge reduction in financial risk. That's the kind of number that should make any finance director sit up and take notice.
It absolutely should. It's a clear ROI. But beyond the insurance angle, there's another benefit highlighted by ISME's review data. It drives cultural change.
How so?
Well, the review found 85% of organizations felt the scheme improved their overall understanding of cyber risks. And crucially, 86% said it strengthened senior management's understanding.
So it helps educate the leadership team too.
Yes. It provides a common framework, a common language for discussing risk. It's not just a technical checklist. It's an organizational maturity tool that works from the top down.
Interesting. The review also mentioned reasons why companies get certified: improving security, customer confidence.
Right. Confidence to customers was top at 39%. General security improvement was 31%. But significantly, 24% said they got certified simply because it was required for a contract.
The perfect lead-in to the supply chain discussion later. But before we jump there, let's touch on how the NCSC is trying to formalize this leadership responsibility. They've introduced specific governance guidance, haven't they?
They have indeed. The new Cyber Governance Code of Practice and the associated training that launched in April 2025, that's the NCSC directly addressing the historical lack of board-level oversight.
So it's a tool specifically for the board.
Yes, designed to empower directors, to help them ask the right questions, to demand meaningful assurance from their teams. The code basically says, cyber isn't just operational, it's a core strategic governance duty.
And the training focuses on 5 core principles. Let's quickly run through what they mean for an executive, not just the tech team.
Okay, the principles are risk management, strategy, people, incident planning, response or recovery, and finally, assurance and oversight.
Let's take incident planning as an example. What's the board's role there? They don't write the plan, surely.
No. Their role is governance, ensuring the CSO has the budget for, say, specialist incident response retainers, making sure the communication plan covers regulators and shareholders, checking that the recovery process is actually tested, properly funded, and signed off at the executive level.
So they oversee the process, the readiness, the resources.
Exactly. They govern the preparedness for the storm, not necessarily steer the ship during it. This formal guidance really removes any excuse for boardroom ignorance on cyber matters.
It makes accountability clear.
Precisely. And that 5th principle, assurance and oversight, is key. It means the board must challenge the assurance reports they get. Are they just based on someone saying, yes, we do that? Or are they backed by independent, verifiable standards?
Which brings us neatly to
The biggest growth area for risk right now, your supply chain.
Right, let's pivot fully now. The supply chain. It feels like this has exploded as a risk area. 10
Yeah.
years ago, was it even on the radar in the same way?
Honestly, not really. A decade ago, third-party risk was mostly seen through the lens of data leakage. A supplier messing up and losing your customer data, that was the main concern.
And now?
Now the game has totally changed. We live in these hyper-connected ecosystems. Think cloud platforms, thousands of APIs, connecting systems, managed service providers, MSPs, deeply embedded in day-to-day operations.
Everything's linked.
Everything. And that means a single vulnerability, one weak link in just one supplier can ripple outwards and cause a whole network of dependent organizations to grind to a halt.
So the risk has shifted from confidentiality.
Squarely to continuity. The biggest danger now is often operational standstill, not just a privacy breach.
The report uses the Synovus example to illustrate this, doesn't it? It's a powerful and frankly tragic case.
It's deeply sobering. Synovus provides pathology services, lab testing, mainly to hospitals in London. They got hit by ransomware.
So the attack wasn't on the hospitals directly.
No, it was on their critical third-party supplier. But the impact. Hospitals across London had to cancel blood tests, postpone vital appointments, reschedule major surgeries.
The knock-on effect was huge.
Massive. The estimated financial cost to the NHS, an incredible £32.7 million from that one incident targeting one supplier.
£32.7 million. How do they even calculate a figure like that? It can't just be replacing computers.
No, it's far broader. It includes the huge costs of canceled operations, the inefficiency of switching back to manual processes where possible, the inevitable regulatory investigation costs.
And the long-term impact.
Exactly. The drag on efficiency, clearing backlogs, rebuilding patient throughput, and, tragically, we can't forget the human cost. The NCSC acknowledges the incident directly contributed to at least one patient death.
That really underscores why this isn't just a commercial issue anymore. It's genuinely a matter of public safety in some sectors.
Without a doubt.
Okay, so if I'm a business leader listening to this, I need to grasp that my ability to operate, my continuity, might depend entirely on the cyber health of maybe hundreds of suppliers I don't directly control.
That's the stark reality.
So how do we start managing this? The NCSC frameworks talk about three main types of supply chain risk. What are they?
It helps to break it down. First, there's data risk. This is the classic one. Your supplier processes your data, customer details, employee info, whatever. If they get breached, you are still accountable under data protection laws like GDPR.
So you can outsource the task, but not the legal responsibility.
Exactly. That's data risks. The second type is operational risk.
This is the continuity piece.
Yes. If a key supplier, maybe your logistics provider, your cloud hosting service, the company running your customer portal, suffers a major outage or a ransomware attack, your services stop. Deliveries halt. Sales dried up. Your business is effectively held hostage by their lack of resilience.
Okay, that's critical. And the third type, you called it direct risk. That sounds particularly nasty.
It is potentially the most insidious. Direct risk happens when certain suppliers have direct, often privileged access into your own network.
Like who?
Think outsourced IT support teams, companies that maintain your critical operational technology, maybe specialist software developers who need remote access.
Right, they have credentials, trusted access.
Precisely. So if that third party gets compromised, the attacker doesn't need to break down your front door. They just walk straight in using the supplier's legitimate keys. They leverage that established trust to bypass all your perimeter defenses.
That's terrifying. Given these data loss, operational halts, direct intrusion, why do the traditional ways of checking suppliers, like sending out security questionnaires, often fail?
Well, fundamentally, they often lack real verification and rigor. It too easily becomes a tick box exercise.
How do you mean?
A supplier gets sent this massive, maybe 50-page security questionnaire. Their team, often under pressure, races through it, ticking yes to everything, just to get it off their desk.
They might exaggerate their security posture, or just declare it based on hope rather than evidence.
Exactly. It becomes a paper-based compliance task, not a genuine assessment of their actual resilience. You're relying entirely on their self-declaration.
So you're basically trusting your multi-million-pound operation, potentially, to a subjective checklist filled out by the supplier themselves.
That's often the reality. And this reliance on basic checks extends to certifications too. Cyber Essentials, while vital as a baseline,
Isn't enough for everyone.
it isn't sufficient for your high-risk suppliers, those handling your most sensitive data or providing those absolutely business-critical services where any disruption would be catastrophic. CE covers 5 technical controls, but it doesn't tell you much about their overall security management.
Okay, so for those critical few, we need to demand something more robust, a higher level of assurance.
Absolutely. We need frameworks that look beyond just technical settings and assess the management of security. How they govern risk, how they train staff, do they have formal incident response plans, how do they handle continuous improvement?
Which frameworks provide that depth?
The key ones often cited are ISME Cyber Assurance, which
Mm.
builds significantly on Cyber Essentials Plus, or the international standard ISO 27001. These delve into governance, risk management, business continuity planning, even how the supplier manages risk within their own supply chain.
Ah, so it's about having a properly managed, assured security system, not just having a firewall switched on.
That's the critical difference.
But
And it's a big but. Managing all this across hundreds of suppliers, each potentially needing different levels of assurance, CE here, ISME there, ISO 27001 for another, plus maybe industry-specific ones like PCI DSS for payments or NIS2 alignment.
it sounds like an administrative nightmare.
It absolutely is. That's the administrative headache CSOs and procurement teams constantly talk about. You end up drowning in scattered spreadsheets, looking at dashboards that are instantly out of date, chasing suppliers who don't understand the jargon, and then this frantic rush every time a certificate is about to expire.
It's inefficient and probably leaves dangerous gaps.
Huge gaps. The chaos undermines the whole point, which is continuous compliance and risk reduction.
Okay, so that pain point, the gap between knowing there's a problem with supplier security and actually managing them effectively towards fixing it, that's where we need solutions.
Right.
Traditional tools often just report the problem, right?
Yeah, they might give you a dashboard showing supplier X is non-compliant, but then it's up to you to chase them, explain what's needed, track progress. It's very manual.
So let's talk about the CyberSwift platform, which our sponsor, Coolwater Cyber, is involved with. The claim is it addresses this administrative and compliance gap more directly.
That seems to be the core idea. It's positioned as a dedicated supply chain cybersecurity management platform built for, real-world projects and complex supplier ecosystems.
And the key difference is,
The key differentiator they push is moving beyond just reporting the problem to actively helping solve it. Instead of just flagging non-compliance, it's designed to support the supplier on their journey towards compliance.
okay, how does that active engagement actually work in practice? Does it cut out the need for official certification bodies?
No, not at all. It seems to work with them. The platform lets the buying organization first define its specific security standards for a particular contract or supplier type. They call these custom risk profiles.
So you can set different requirements for different suppliers.
Exactly. You might require baseline cyber essentials for most, but demand ISO 27001 or PCI DSS for a critical payment processor, or maybe look for alignment with NIS2 requirements for a key EU partner.
Let's pause on NIS2 for a second. That's an EU directive. Why would a UK organization need to worry about aligning with that now?
Good question. If you're what's termed an essential or important entity in the UK, especially in tech, digital services, or if you have supply chains reaching into the EU, your customers in the EU might fall under the very strict NIS2 rules.
Ah, so they will demand proof of alignment from their suppliers,
Yeah.
including UK ones.
Precisely. They'll need demonstrable assurance aligned with NIS2 principles. A platform like CyberSwift aims to help manage and provide that evidence easily so you don't lose key European business because you can't prove your security standards.
Got it. Okay, back to the CyberSwift process. The standard is set in the platform. Then what happens with the supplier?
This is where the integration, particularly with Coolwater Cyber being an NCSC assured service provider and an ISME certification body, comes in. The supplier gets a secure link inviting them to a tailored workflow within the platform.
Tailored how?
It's designed to strip out the confusing jargon, guide them step by step through the specific requirements for their assigned standard. It essentially makes achieving potentially complex compliance more manageable, even for smaller suppliers who might lack deep in-house security expertise.
This is providing support and guidance.
That's the active engagement model they talk about, providing the support structure needed for the supplier to actually achieve the required certification standard.
Okay, so it's not just a reporting dashboard. It's more like a supported pathway to compliance.
Yeah.
That seems really valuable for large organizations trying to lift the security posture of maybe smaller but still critical suppliers.
Absolutely. And the source material highlights another aspect here, strategic flexibility. The buying organization can actually choose to prepay or subsidize the certification cost for key suppliers through the platform.
Why would they do that? Pay for their supplier certification.
Think about it. If you're, say, a major defense contractor and you absolutely need every supplier on a new project to meet stringent MODI requirements fast, subsidizing their IASME cyber assurance certification via a guided platform is a really effective way to seed that necessary cyber maturity quickly throughout your local supply chain.
Right. It's not a gift. It's an investment in your own project security and your overall resilience. Reduces your risk.
Precisely. It becomes a strategic tool for risk mitigation and project qualification.
And what about the day-to-day management features? Tracking progress.
Yeah, it offers real-time tracking of certification status, so you get live visibility, who's started, who's stuck, who's certified. It also automates the supplier onboarding comms, and importantly, it automates the annual review and renewal process.
So no more certificates lapsing unnoticed because someone forgot to chase.
That's the aim, to avoid those dangerous compliance gaps.
And given that boards are now demanding proof, demonstrable assurance, how does a platform like this help provide that?
It essentially creates a centralized, auditable evidence pack. It helps demonstrate compliance efforts towards all those key standards we mentioned, ISO 27001, IOSME Cyber Assurance, which maps well to the UK's Cyber Governance Code, PCI DSS, NIS2 alignment.
So for the CISO reporting upwards, or for procurement managing risk?
They move away from static, quickly outdated spreadsheets and reports towards what the providers call a living, continuously updated picture of the supply chain's cyber maturity.
Which should reduce disruption risk and make audits much smoother.
That's the promise: reduced overhead, reduced risk, and regulatory assurance.
Who is this really aimed at then? Which types of organizations?
It seems primarily built for larger organizations, those in regulated industries like finance or defense, and project leaders, CSOs, procurement teams, project managers working on critical infrastructure or complex projects who need to verify due diligence efficiently at scale. They can't realistically become internal security consultants for every single vendor.
Okay, let's just flip the perspective for a moment. We focus on the buyer. What does this shift towards more active assurance and verifiable standards mean for the suppliers themselves? How do they need to position themselves to get selected in this more cyber-aware procurement world?
Yeah, it's a crucial question for suppliers. The landscape has fundamentally changed. Having independent, demonstrable certifications, it's rapidly moving from being a nice-to-have differentiator to a basic, non-negotiable prerequisite for many contracts.
So buyers are actively using these standards now.
Aggressively. If a supplier already holds an up-to-date certification, say Cyber Essentials Plus or ISME Cyber Assurance, it instantly saves the buyer a huge amount of time and effort on those lengthy due diligence questionnaires.
So the certification becomes a benefit for the supplier too, a competitive edge and maybe less paperwork.
Exactly. They can often reuse that certification evidence across multiple customers. The clear message for suppliers, especially those handling sensitive data, valuable IP, or providing critical operational services, is this: you must look beyond just the basic cyber essentials.
They need that higher level of assurance.
They really need robust, verifiable assurance like ISME Cyber Assurance or ISO 27001. If they don't have it, they will increasingly find themselves disqualified from tenders, particularly for higher value contracts or in regulated sectors. Tools like CyberSwift might make achieving it easier, but the requirement for verified security isn't going away. It's becoming table stakes.
Okay, we have covered a lot of ground here. From the sheer increase in national cyber incidents, through the potentially catastrophic impact of supply chain failures, to the need for active assurance. Let's consolidate this for everyone listening. What are the clear, actionable steps leaders should be tasking their teams with right now, drawing from that NCSC guidance on supply chain resilience?
The NCSC actually lays out a pretty clear 5-step roadmap. It's very practical.
Okay, step 1.
Map your critical suppliers. And critical is key here. Don't try to boil the ocean and analyze all 500 vendors at once. Identify the vital few, maybe the top 10, 15, 20, whose failure tomorrow would literally stop your business from operating. Focus on operational dependency.
All right. Prioritize ruthlessly. Step 2.
Assign a certification baseline. Mandate Cyber Essentials as a minimum for all suppliers handling your data or connecting to your systems. But for those critical few identified in Step 1, you must demand higher assurance, That means Cyber Essentials Plus, or ideally, IASM Cyber Assurance.
Step 3, get them started.
Exactly. Invite suppliers via a guided tool. Implement a platform like CyberSwift or similar that doesn't just ask questions but actively guides them through the certification process for the standard you require. And consider offering support or subsidies for those really key high-impact vendors to get them over the line quickly.
Step 4, keep track.
Monitor real-time dashboards. Get rid of the static spreadsheets. You need a live visibility into compliance status, who's making progress on remediation, and crucially, upcoming certificate renewal dates. It needs to be a living system.
And finally, step 5.
Review and refine. Use the data, the evidence packs generated by your platform, to continuously review your overall supply chain risk posture. Use this verifiable evidence for those crucial board updates and to satisfy any regulatory or audit requirements.
That roadmap really defines procurement differently, doesn't it? It's almost making procurement a core security function.
In many ways, yes. The future of procurement is integrated assurance. It's about replacing vague trust and self-declarations with measurable, independent evidence of resilience.
The days of just accepting an email saying, yes, we're secure, are definitely over.
They have to be. Organizations are demanding clear proof, and suppliers need to adapt to provide it, or they risk being excluded altogether.
This has been a really essential deep dive, I think. We've covered the NCSC's warnings, the very real supply chain risks, and the need for better governance and assurance. To wrap things up, the NCSC report included a rather provocative thought, didn't it, from their section on radical transparency.
Yes, it's quite a memorable quote attributed to Ollie Whitehouse speaking at CyberUCA. He made the point that, he quipped that, we know more about what's in our sausages than our software, and that's probably not right for 2025.
Sausages versus software. What's the underlying point he's making there for business leaders?
He's highlighting the fundamental opacity of our current digital supply chain. We rely on incredibly complex software and services, but often have very little visibility into their components, their security practices, how they're built and maintained.
It's a black box. Attackers just need to find one crack in that box.
Exactly. Whereas defenders, you as the user, need a much more complete, transparent understanding of the entire system to manage risk effectively. And vendors rarely provide that level of detail voluntarily.
So if transparency is key to better security,
it raises the ultimate question for every leader listening today. How much more information should you be demanding from your key suppliers? Not just asking for a compliance certificate, but digging deeper into the actual security posture, the underlying software bill of materials, SBOM, the patch frequency, the tested recovery capabilities of the critical products and services your entire business continuity depends on.
That's the challenge to take back into your own organization, isn't it?
It really is.
Because ultimately, cybersecurity is a shared responsibility. It affects economic stability, operational reality, and it demands decisive, verifiable action, starting right at the board level and extending through every single link in your supply chain.
So the immediate next step, review your current supplier due diligence. Does it stand up against the kind of rigorous governance and active assurance frameworks we've discussed today? That's where you need to start.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for joining us for this critical discussion on the Business Leader Cyber Briefing. We'll see you next time.